as the ones we did before, but this is from your homework book, not from the classwork book. So that's why it has the same numbers. But it's page 42, which is this page, all the way to page 43 and page 44. So let's get started. For 42, it says, use the following situation to solve the problems 4 and 5. Caroline earns $54 babysitting for 6 hours. Fill in the blanks in the double number line to show the relationship between the amount of money Caroline earns and the number of hours she works. If you notice here, we have 54 to 6. And right here we have 6, 5. Obviously, right here would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On top of here, though, you have to figure out what they're skip counting by. But let's look at question number 5 to help us. Well, we can fill in the blanks. I guess you can figure it out. It is going by nines, so 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72. But let's look at question number 5. Let's say you couldn't answer this on your own. What is Caroline's rate in dollars per hour? Her rate, if we need to figure out how much she makes per hour, we need to figure this 6 into 1 hour. So our, let me move this. Now I see why I didn't have that there. So this rate, $54 to 6 hours, we need to make it into 1 hour because it's asking us per hour. So we divide by 6 on both sides. Right here we get 1. Right here, 54 divided by 6, we get 9. And that's where I said that we would put 9 here because $9 would be 1 hour. But it asks us, what is her unit rate? Her unit rate is $9 per hour. $9 per hour. Unit rate will always ask you how much is 1 of something. Right here, our 1 hour is how much of her work she gets paid, which is $9. So what is her unit rate? $9 per hour. Let's look at number 6. Len uses 21 bananas and to make 7 fruit smoothies. So for number 6, different problem. 21 bananas to 7 fruit smoothies. What is the rate of that Ling uses for bananas per each smoothie? Per each smoothie. What is her unit rate? So these are the same question. What is the rate that Ling uses for bananas per each smoothie? So we need to figure out one smoothie per smoothie, each smoothie. How do we get from 7 to 1? We divide by 7. We do it to both sides. That means we get 3 bananas per smoothie. What is the unit rate? 3 bananas per smoothie. Now, it says explain how to use the equivalent fractions to find the answer. You don't have to explain that part. Don't worry about it. Let's go to the next one, number 7. Kelly drove 440 miles in 8 hours. Alberto. Okay, looks like we're going to have more people in this question, so let's make a little bit of room. Whoa. Okay. We can fix that. There we go. So it says Kelly drove, we'll do Kelly over here. So Kelly drove 440 miles in 8 hours. Alberto drove 468 miles in 9 hours. Both drove at a constant speed. Who drove farther in 1 hour? So let's answer that first question in 1 hour. We have to make both of these into 1 hour. That means that each one's going to be divided by a different number. Over here, it'll be divided by 8. Over here, it'll be divided by 9. But we have to do it to both sides. This one, you're allowed to use a calculator. So for the first one, it'll be 440 divided by 8, and we get 55 miles. And the next one, it's 468 divided by 9, and we get 52 hours. So who drove farther in 1 hour? Kelly drove farther in 1 hour. Then the second question, how many miles farther? 55, 52, the difference by 3 miles. Okay, let's go to our next page. No, we need more room. I can just zoom it in and then we'll have more room. There we go. Now let's go to the next page. Whoa. That guy's gotta be more careful. All right. Here it says in an after-school program, school sports program, 70% of the 400 students play soccer. How many students play soccer? So they divided it into 40 by 10s. Okay, to make 400 students. And how many is 70%? So it would be right here. How many 40s are there before the 70%? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 40 equals 280. That means 280 students who play soccer out of the 400 students in the after school program. Now it says, what is 70% written as a fraction? If we write, okay, you do this, but if we write 60% as a fraction, I would do it like this, 60 over 100. If I wrote 50% out of a fraction, it would be like this. Now, if I wrote 2% as a fraction, actually this one would be like this. But in decimals, they look like this, just so you can see the difference. I zoomed in, so I changed the, yeah, I gotta change this a little bit. There you go. So 70% for instance as a fraction, use this as an example, or answer that question. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 asks us, use a fraction to write an equivalent to write and evaluate a multiplication expression that represents 70% of 400. Compare the answer to the one you got using the model. So right here, it wants us to take 70% and use it as a decimal. And we're going to use that as a decimal to multiply it by 400. Now, this is what I want you to do, but the book wants you to do the 70 over 100 times 400. Now, you could do this because, look, either way, you're doing the 70 times the 400. You're doing that part, but then they're making you divide it by 100 after that. It's a lot of steps. That's why I prefer you guys doing it this way, just so you can just multiply it in the calculator and you'll get an easier, faster answer. So 70%, I can tell it's going to be 28 or 280, but let's find out. So 0.70 times 400. Hey, 280. Now, next one question says, what is 75% of 400? Again, write an expression, same thing. We did this here for 70%, so you got to do it for 75%. Same steps, same steps. Got some coffee being made. Now, next question, next page, last page, 44. Now, let's go to number 4. Let's move this real quick just so we have more space. All right, let's go and start. So it says, use the results of a survey show that 40% of 300 students chose conserving natural resources as the top priority for their generation. How many students chose conserving natural resources? Make a model to find your answer. Okay, you don't have to do a model. I'll give you an example. If it's 30% of 200, all you got to do is multiply it by the decimal. Now, when you do this, so when you multiply, remember that only when it says like 40% of a number, only when it says this word of, it means multiplication. We've gone over that before, that this means multiplication, so try to look out for that word of. But here's the work that we do for number 4, except that you're doing it with 40%, not 30%. Next question, number 5 says, suppose only 24% of 300 students chose conserving natural resources. How many students chose conserving natural resources? Again, this whole explanation thing, the extra steps, you don't have to do them. For example, now they ask you for a different percentage, okay, of the 200. It's still the same steps. You're still multiplying by the decimal form. So make sure you show your work like this here, and I'll be fine with that. Number 6 says, there are 50 puzzles in Maggie's puzzle book. Maggie finished 30% of the puzzles. How many puzzles does she have left to do? Now, if you notice here, it didn't say 30% of 50 puzzles. It told you that there's 50 puzzles in Maggie's puzzle book, and Maggie finished 30% of the puzzles. How many puzzles she has left to do? Now, 30% of the puzzle that says it right here, it's not next to the number, but because it says it next to the word here, that still counts as that. Now, let me do an example for you, but I'm going to do an example that's 40% of the puzzles, just so you can see the steps on how to complete this. So let's say that this person did 40% of the puzzles, right? Of the 50 puzzles. And when I do this multiplication, just go ahead and trust me, it's going to be 20. So that means that this person did 20 puzzles already. But it's asking how many puzzles does she have left to do? If she has 50 and she only finished 40% in my made-up problem, which is 20, that means she has 30 left to do. You have to do your work like this, but instead of 40%, yours is going to be 30%. The 50 is the same. It's just that this won't be the same, and this won't be the same, and this won't be the same. That's it for day 10.